Hello, my name is Drew Elliot. I had the privilege of meeting Josh a couple years ago at a nonprofit community event where there were multiple modalities presented, including meditation and different aspects of spirituality. We bonded very quickly, similar interests on those related topics. I'm also a facilitator. I do sound therapy, sound baths, meditations, and ceremonial events. So Josh attended a few of my events, and then he discussed a meditation method that he had been working with and studying for a while. He spoke very highly of, and he offered some sessions for me to get introduced to it. I quickly said yes. When it comes to the intentions, I had a head injury in 2022, and unfortunately I had 3 different head injuries in a 5-year period, one in 2017, one in 2020, and then one in 2022. And there was kind of a negative effect that happened in succession with the injuries. It left me with some long-term fatigue, brain fog, really just kind of neurological imbalance. I've been trying different modalities to work through this. It was hard to know how much of it was psychosomatic and how much of it was actually physiological. As I'd worked with medical practitioners, they'd all told me very different things. And a lot of them said for concussion and brain symptoms, there's not much they can do. Specifically, since the neurology can be so complex, there's some experimental procedures. So that quickly became one of my intentions for the work with Josh. And we did 4 sessions, and that immediately preceded me doing a shamanic retreat in Costa Rica. And between that, I view it all as one process. To summarize it, the most important benefit I got working with Josh and then taking that information into my shamanic work was the main effect of the injury was nothing neurological. It was more related to the story and the narrative I was telling myself about it, which had actually manifested in physiological symptoms and emotional symptoms and neurotransmitter imbalance. And by the end of the process with Josh and this retreat, which kind of finalized the work, the main information I received was that if I have any physiological symptoms like tiredness, exhaustion, depression, I need to be mindful of the story I tell about it. Whereas beforehand, the default narrative was, oh, this is my head injury symptoms again, goodness. And then I immediately went through a whole series of negative narratives related to that, which makes sense. It was a very traumatic event. It wasn't dumb by any means. It was a logical response to the trauma. And there was a lot of truth in that at one point, but it had become such an ingrained narrative that I was basically attributing anything uncomfortable to the history of head injuries, and it became like an organism living inside of me. And there was a particular conversation I had with Josh after one of the meditation sessions where I was discussing how I used to study martial arts, and I really enjoyed it, but I stopped after the head injury because the drilling, hitting the mat over and over again. I told myself I can't do it anymore. And then I was working with Josh, explaining all the things I used to be able to do, opposed to what I can't do now. And I was, saying, I can't do that anymore. And Josh kind of looked at me, and there was a moment of silence, and I said, I choose not to do that anymore. In the empowerment that I choose not to practice those martial arts anymore because it doesn't really fit into my current lifestyle goals, and it doesn't fit into my physiological goals. And even just that moment of just us making eye contact and realizing the importance of narration. And since then, my physiological symptoms have improved greatly. I can't say they're perfect, but if I do wake up with any issues, there doesn't have to be a narrative. There's just days where we don't feel 100%, and I can be mindful of the stories I tell myself about that. So that was the main benefit I got from the practices and the experience, and things that I take with me and have implemented in my daily practice from then on.